Volkswagen Passat or the all-new Renault Talisman? That is one of the big questions today, because the all-new Renault Talisman with the driving review, that's today on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. We're going in the detail on the exterior, interior, this one here, top trim level, initially Paris, and this one here will also be available then with another trim level later on, we'll also show you. And of course, we're going in-depth on the driving review as well. We also have the all-wheel steering here, that one will be very interesting, and we'll also take some comparison to a Volkswagen Passat, one of the leading cars in this segment here, the mid-size segment, as we also have a Passat right here, so we can take a first small comparison. Let's go. So first of all, some general things about the successor of the Renault Laguna, which has been very unsuccessful lately, and therefore they needed a drastic change, also introducing a total new model name. Talisman, well, you probably just know what that means, and I think it sounds a little bit weak, especially for a mid-sized car, but you know, they wanted to do exactly the opposite. They say Talisman stands for protection and being strong, and therefore also for this mid-size car. But I think it sounds a little bit weird. But I mean, it doesn't change how good or bad the car is. We'll see more about that very soon. They've invested over 420 million euros in the new factory in France to build this car. And they also had consultation from Daimler there, because they are also collaborating. And this might have also effect on the quality. Let's now start with the exterior design. We now have the C-shaped lights, as we, for example, also see with the all-new Renault Megane, and this is the new Renault signature, definitely. But I think it's very daring and also looks, quite elegant and stylish. And the Renault also wants to represent this France design, being a little bit more, extravagant, being a little bit more playful with the design, definitely. And what is been criticized quite a lot is that the Renault logo is really huge here in the front. I think it is actually too big. This special purple color is, by the way, especially for the initially Paris. This is the top trim level. Then we also have huge alloys here on the side, 19-inch, two-color scheme, very beautiful again. Initially Paris. This is the logo here for the top trim level. If we take a look at the side profile, and there Renault follows the scheme that the side profiles are quite simple, but I like that because a good car design is also made just of few design lines. A little bit playing around with the ending here of the windows. I'm not quite sure what meaning this has. This looks a little bit strange. Then again, quite strong shoulders. That reminds me a little bit of the Jaguar XJ even here in the rear part. And then let's move on to the very rear of the car. The rear of this 4.85 meters long car is right here. That's 8 centimeters longer than the Volkswagen Passat and almost the same size as the Skoda Superb or a Mazda 6, which we have recently in our big comparison test. Be sure also to check out that one. This one here was, of course, it's still missing there. In the rear, we have this very horizontal taillights, and I've already told you that in the Megane review. I really like them because they make this rear very broad. And then we have a 3D effect here as well with the taillights. I think a very beautiful and daring rear, and I always love it when manufacturers dare to do something special with the design, and this one here really has happened. And the recent feedback we got from you was also that you say, okay, well, especially in the last 10 years or so, I didn't like any Renault from the styling, but this one here really appeals to me. I can just share this opinion, definitely. It is also available as the estate version, or Kombi as we say in Germany. This one is called then Grand Tourer, and it's about 1,000 euros extra, and then goes like this. We also have this one in a static review at the IAA Motor Show, so you can also take a look at that. Other videos, you can just always search Autogefühl and the model name in the YouTube search, or most of the relevant videos are also always linked in the video description. that's also a way to go for that then. And about the pricing, it starts at about 28,000 euros. That's more expensive than the other cars in the midsize segment, but it directly comes with GPS inside and also some other stuff, for example, air conditioning and park distance control. And then in the upper trim levels, you get even more stuff. That means in the top trim levels, this car will be way cheaper than the competitors. So the strategy here is put a lot of stuff inside already in the car and go really at the fighting at a very competitive price. Heavy rain outside, so we just stay inside for the engine and the interior and then go outside to drive the car. About the engines here, 1.6 liter petrol engine with 200 horsepower, as a new Renault Megane, or also with 150 horsepower. That is for the turbo petrol engine side. And then there's also diesel, 1.5 liter with 110 horsepower, 1.6 liter with 130 or 160 horsepower. And that's kind of it. But I think you don't always have to have 10 different engines for a car. But there's not a really very strong engine for the car. But I think the 200 horsepower petrol engine, that will be the best for this one. Let's get inside. Solid door handles, I really like that. Also the door closing sound sounds high class. They have really improved it. And then this is the top trim level. Well, unluckily it's only available with full animal skin, and it looks good visually, definitely, but you know, you should never go for it as there's suffering involved. I can also tell you about the middle trim level. That is intense, and there you also have a mix between full leather on the outside and then cloth on the inside. That one will be the best pick if you go for the middle trim level and then pick some optional equipment. If we, for example, take a look at the inside of the doors, then we can also see a good quality. This one can also be easily made from full leather. What I really love is those wood inlets here. This is matte wood, and it really feels high class, well done here. Also look at the floor mats. They have a white frame that is fitting, and you see we also got the purple ambient light everywhere that is fitting to the outside color of the car. And funny thing, what you can see directly with those electric seat adjustments right here, you can put this seat here fully flat and really take a nap right here at the co-driver seat. Also very comfortable upper headrests. So let's take a nap. Let's try it out. Well, it's just that you cannot really stretch your legs completely, but other than that, if you're maybe missing a ferry or something that you have to do over them overnight in your car, that might be possible right here by this way. About the cockpit, this is the new Renault style now. Rather compact steering wheels, digital instruments in the front, and then there's either 7-inch screen available or this 8.7-inch, the big one that has this iPad format, separate climate units, left and right part. And as I said, even from the low trims you get the GPS and the automatic climate control. With the middle trim level you get even more, and then just the top trim level is about that full leather style. But really, you can buy this car with a basic trim level or with a middle trim level and kind of always have everything in it. Just the autonomous emergency brake, that is only coming with the top trim level, and that's really a shame. It should come with the lowest trim level. Same with the all-wheel steering, that's also just something for the top trim. See how it plays out from the seating position and from the comfort. And I mean, no matter what the surface is, you do have a basic comfort in mid-size cars. And as we've recently had this big comparison, I can really compare how much space is being offered here, definitely. And so far, I think it is comparable. Well, the Mazda has a feeling of having less space, definitely, the Mazda 6. And it is comparable with the Volkswagen Passat and the Skoda Superb. We'll also take another soon comparison look at the Passat, then I can explain you that more in detail. But in general, I think I have a quite a spacious feeling. The seating position is comfortable as well for tall people. Got enough headspace above my head, 1.86 m for non-subscribers. Electric seat adjustment here. We'll soon also check out how is it with the middle trim level with Intense. How can you adjust the seat there, and if the seat is somehow different. This one is very broad, especially in the upper area. It doesn't deliver you such side support, but you have a lot of space, definitely. And well, I could very well imagine going a longer way there. What is maybe remarkable is that I feel like where you put your feet is a little bit elevated. That's maybe a difference to other cars there, but we'll soon also check out while driving how it plays out with comfort. And in general, you do have a new Renault feeling here that is carrying out all over, for example, also Megane or also the Espace. You basically get the same feeling now in every all new Renault, and even the ones that are not totally renewed from the generation-wise will get a facelift where they, for example, also get the same infotainment system soon. Driver's point of view, as I said, the digital instruments, you can change something right here with buttons at the steering wheel for your multimedia information, for example, or also some trip info that can be changed. And then you have this Renault multi-sense system, and that will have an effect on those instruments, the middle instrument here, and also the ambient light we see. And that is placed right here. And you see the purple ambient light is also around this central knob. So not everything is done via the touchscreen. You can, but you can also do home button here and control here with going through the menu. Press this one here, that's the multi-sense, and then we can see it right here what we can change. And as I said, this one I'm doing now with the central stick. That is unique for the Talisman, but you can also just do it with a touch, and then you can change to different light modes. See here that colors are changing. But also, for example, the throttle input or the steering input is changing. And if you go to sport, it also changes, for example, how fast the all-wheel steering is reacting. And this is the effect then on the instruments, sport, comfort, eco, neutral, or personal. And also the change of the seats are actually effective. For example, if you put it to comfort, then it activates the seat massage, for example, if it's included there. And you get a lot of comfort features here. For example, also here with heated seats, cool seats are also available when you turn on the engine. And climate control is usually always separated here and has been improved in comparison to the IAA pre-production model I have tested. But still, I like it when it's separated, and I think it's a good solution. But still, maybe it could have been a little bit more worthy in general, just also the surface here. Everything else, I hope this is faux leather here, artificial leather, what they've used, because also in the Mercedes S-Class, they used this one for the dashboard. It only makes sense. You see how everything is processed. They've really done a very good job here with the matte wood. There has been this cooperation with a French automotive supplier Faurecia, where they invested a lot of money to update the interior especially, and I think this worked here also when you open the doors. So Renault has really been like years behind as for the interior quality so far, but this one has really changed now with the new models, and well, you can just be glad for them. Everything else about the infotainment system, let's check it right here. For the reaction times, in general quite good. You could also slide up the maybe let's turn on the ignition. Storage spaces are slim at the inside of the doors, and then we got a glove box which is, well, quite roomy. As well as this front area with, small spaces. This one is a little bit strange up here. I'm not sure what, well, it doesn't go far in there, but very strange solution. And also closing it works quite strange. I'm not sure about it. Behind here, we got 12-volt power supply here and also 2 USB slots. Then beverages holders right here, where the key is actually at the moment. Finally, the middle rest here. It's a little bit more attached than in the Megane. There it is, and then you can see there's some cover above that. Also remove it, then you can have a look inside. And well, let's see what there's this here. Flip that one up. Not sure why should we flip it down. Well, there's some, well, you can go in there. It's kind of like this. Whoa! I can go under the under the middle console, kind of like a secret. But I think you shouldn't put things there, but you probably won't find them. And you can see this here from push. Not sure why they did that. By the way, if I open the door again, comfort mechanism, seat is sliding back automatically to have a better access and also can get out of the car better. Let's get in the rear, see how it plays out here. And they have improved the knee space, definitely, because they're also using special seat technology to make it a little bit slimmer. You see there's still enough knee space, but what I've really liked with all the Renault cars, that when you have a driver that has the seat very low, you don't have any space to put your feet in it. So it would be better if the seat would be a little bit higher than for me. Headspace, well, it does fit here for 1.86 m, that kind of headspace above my head, so it's still quite okay, not too much. Considering the length of the car, I've seen cars in the mid-size segment which have more space, definitely. For example, the Passat and the Superb, but well, this offering of space is reasonable here, but I have felt more comfortable in other cars in this segment, definitely, considering this is also a length of 4.85 m. So I would say it's just a standard level here, and especially from the seating comfort here, I think it's, the seats, they feel too thick here in the rear. We should test that one out also in the other trim level. Maybe that's a difference then. For the rear passengers, we also have 2 USB slots and a 12-volt power supply. And behind the armrest here, there is also a ski hatch you can open to the trunk. And look at the trunk. Well, it's a classic sedan. If you want a more practical solution, go for the Estate. It goes way in there, really very long, definitely, but not too high, definitely. Well, it's, I think, standard size, but we've also seen it with more practical solutions here. And now it's time to drive the Talisman. In steel grey, so we have yet another color, and this is also the Intense, the middle trim level you will see also from the inside very soon. However, we also got some nice 2-color alloys here. This one has also the all-wheel steering, and you see the interior trim level is different. There we have the combination I've talked about earlier. I would go for, just for the visual part, you have faux leather, artificial leather on the outside, and then cloth on the inside. That's very good for summer, both and winter, and already looks quite good. And there you go with the interior. You see there isn't so much changes to the very top trim level. Already with lower and middle trim levels you get some nice stuff. For example, also the faux leather covering on the inside of the doors. And indeed, as I suspected earlier, I have more knee space here in the middle trim level. So I think the top luxury seats in the initially Paris, this one are really reducing the knee space, as I have my impression. Let's ride the Renault Talisman, the all-new model, and what we're driving here is the top diesel. The diesel was 160 horsepower. So I would generally recommend to go for the strongest petrol engine here because we're in a mid-sized car. But this diesel, well, power-wise, should also be a good solution. I will also turn off the vents a little bit more. What is quite strange now, what I realize, you can adjust the temperature singularly here in the middle console without going to the touchscreen. But how strong the vents are, that you still have to do over the touchscreen, and that can be a little bit annoying, definitely. So, by the way, the steering wheel is adjustable. You can do it manually, front and back, up and down. That's very good as well. And we're starting again with a bumpy road, also with some direct speed bumps, and you can see how the suspension is. And what I'm quite fastly realizing is that the suspension is really set on a very soft ride, definitely. And of course, a soft ride is good generally for a mid-sized car. And well, it always depends on what you want, of course. So still very bumpy here, but suspension is doing that very good so far. As I said before, we'll also have the all-wheel drive steering here, so it will be quite exciting then how this one performs in a bigger car, because we have tested that one in the all-new Renault Megane, but we have also tested it in the Renault Espace. And in the Espace, they both here, the Talisman and the Espace, they share a lot of parts. And in Espace, it was very good, for example, to reduce the turning circle. And the same is done here, because at lower speeds, the wheels are turning in the opposite direction. And then you have a very short turning circle, and at higher speeds, they go in parallel to stabilize the ride. So let's go here with the diesel, 160 horsepower. Diesel doesn't sound too old, I would say. Sounds quite refined. That's quite okay, I would say. Sound installation is very good to test today because we have rainy conditions outside, and that also means it's always louder then. And yeah, I mean, you have to excuse it a little bit because it's raining outside, but then again, for example, the Skoda Superb or the Volkswagen Passat, they are way more silent even when it's rainy. So there Renault is still lagging a little bit behind, but if you compare it to the Laguna, to the predecessor of this car, they have definitely stepped up the game. No question. Then the seat, by the way, especially at the higher part here, is really soft, and I think that makes it quite cozy also for a long ride. The steering wheel is, for such a car, rather compact, and it's really a funny feeling with this four-wheel steering, because the car feels like go-kart, even if we're already in the mid-size segment here. And that can also be a crucial factor if you want something special also from the riding style. So I think they're doing a good strategy, because all those years now Laguna was not successful, or now they really needed to have something different. Still riding about 60 kilometers an hour, then it's still that the wheels turn in the opposite direction, and only if we go faster, which we also do quite soon, then it's going parallel and it will have a different riding feeling. Where you have to pay attention is, the transition between it, when it's changing from going to the parallel direction and then again to the opposite direction with the wheels. That might cause some problems. You have to get used to it, because especially now when it's slippery on the road, you think about, your rear end is sliding out, but it's not. It's rolling out because of this all-wheel steering, and you really have to get used to this feeling, definitely. Just from the sound and from the general feeling, I would usually go for the petrol engine. However, this diesel here makes generally a solid impression, that's for sure. And acceleration-wise, that will also be no problem. I can soon show you as we're going straight and now outside the city. Let's also test how it performs when you drive it a little bit more agile, pushing it now. Push it a little bit over the front wheels as the road is wet now. And let's see acceleration. We can also change the driving modes. So go to this mode selector now, and let's go to the sport mode. And we can show you the acceleration of this diesel. Let's go really from 0 to let's say 60 or something like that. Yeah, start, stop. Let's go now. 0 and go. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Let's do 100 and 100. So you have a reasonable acceleration, definitely. Sound-wise, it's also not too annoying. So this deal will especially be a good motorway engine when you're doing some overtaking slots on the motorway. Now when we're going faster, now 90 kilometers an hour, then I'm directly feeling that the steering is first of all quite direct. I mean, you wouldn't expect it of a Renault, but they've really changed now. And now the rear wheels are also steering in the same direction, so it gives me stability, definitely. However, if I brake and going now 50 kilometers, the car feels lighter now again. And it's something you feel it somehow in your body that the car is steering from behind. And in the older Renault Megane, as it's a compact car, we know with shorter wheelbase, there you even more feel the effect. And it's, well, especially in the GT version where the sportiness is stressed, here you don't feel it that much, but then again, it gives you a bigger advantage as for the turning circle, because then, the longer the wheelbase is, the more you have the advantage if you can use this for reducing the turning circle, definitely. So by this technology, if you pick the Espace or the Talisman, I would definitely go for that feature, because that is what makes Renault so special now, because otherwise it's often just offered in some very expensive sports cars. Let's now get faster turning here again. Yeah, okay, the diesel is maybe not the most sporty engine, that's for sure, but generally does a good job. Suspension wise, as I said, all is set on the comfort, but due to the all-wheel steering, you can also move the car quite agile. If you don't pick the all-wheel steering, definitely the car is set on comfort all the way. Maybe let's do some rear-wheel drive. You also got a rear-wheel camera, which, well, we can't see anything right now because it's covered in rain. There, some rear-wheel cameras have an advantage, for example, with Volkswagen. It flips up, it's protected then against rain. Here it's always out. But in general, it's nice to steer the car around because the rear windows are kind of standing upright. You also good visibility to the rear. You have also an additional window there in the rear where you can see very well. And so the overall visibility is just, well, in the very rear is limited. That would be better than with the estate version, that you really see where the car is ending. But you get those parking aid already from the entry trim level. That's, as I mentioned earlier, one of the other secrets to sell this car. More equipment for less price. That's really, well, something that can really be very convincing. Does it really catch up to, for example, one of the class-leading cars, the Volkswagen Passat, the B8, I must say. Unfortunately, our US friends do not get the B8 yet. Everyone else in Europe and etc. does. I'm glad. Does it catch up to the Passat as for driving? Well, it has this all-wheel steering. There it's maybe even more special. But then in general, let's say the ride in the Passat feels a little bit more refined. Here you feel it is a very new car. They have made something that is way better than it has been before, and Renault is competitive again with this car. But you feel they couldn't do really a steady evolution of the car. This will start now, but they couldn't do it yet. And so it's not that refined as the Passat is also as for the drive. You feel a little, well, you feel calmer in the Passat, let's take it that way. But it is definitely a cozy ride, and it will be, because nowadays a lot of people pick the equipment, and it will be one of the best price performance picks from now on, also in the mid-size segment. So overall, I must say, well, I'm not that kind of totally astonished about this ride, but I'm generally satisfied, definitely. Sound insulation can be made better. Interior quality is already now at a very good level. Huge step forward, definitely. However, some of the other competitors seem more high class as for the interior, already in the middle trim levels. They have to work on that one maybe as well. But you do already get a lot of equipment, and that's definitely important. The steering and the agility of the car are very good. Suspension is more set in comfort, which is perfectly fine. There, by the way, the Passat feels way sportier. And that's the question what you what you really want there. And what is even more interesting, of course, is also, let's take a look again, exterior, interior. What about Passat and Renault Talisman there? Because I promised you initially that we also compare the Passat a little bit here, because I still have it, drove with the Passat here, and so it will be also a nice comparison to directly compare those two cars. And that is a good follow-up to our 3 cars mid-size segment comparison test. If you haven't watched that comparison test so far, you should really do that. It's also linked in the video description. And also check out the new Megane. Also check out the new Renault Espace. It's all in the video description, link to that. By the way, if I forget it sometimes, then just give it in a YouTube search, because for you especially, it's very interesting also to see the connections. Where are the brands heading to? What about the same cars, from different brands in the same segment, but also what about cars from the same brand but in different segments? So really a lot of stuff happening at Renault, and I think they are now really on a very good path with that one. And let's now compare the Talisman and the Volkswagen Passat B8. You see, just from the design, the Passat is more conservative. The horizontal line is really stressed here with the lights and the grille. Talisman a little bit more joyful, especially with this C daytime running light. A little more to look at, let's say. But well, I think you see it really the German more, conservative, should be more elegant, and the French a little bit more playing around with the design. If we look at the side profile, the Passat has more the classic sedan layout, steep windows, and also the ending of the rear windows is kind of upright. And if you then look at the Talisman, it's really way flatter in the rear, and that also reduces the space and the visibility, of course, but it looks better design-wise. Looks sportier, looks flatter. And you see, the Talisman is actually also flatter, and especially from the visual part, it looks flatter. Very, very interesting. So what do you think? Which one do you like more from design? And then we also switch around to the rear. And that's it from the rear. The Passat also has more horizontal taillights now than the predecessor version. However, still this very, let's say, rather bulky sedan layout in the rear. There, I think the Talisman is way better. I like it more with this very stretched out taillights. They look very beautiful in my opinion, and has also a lot of agility and a lot of the design focus at the rear. So I really love how they designed the rear with the Talisman, definitely. If we move from interior to interior directly, you see the Passat. This is the middle trim level, so the same we have in the Talisman. It's a very clean layout, especially also how the infotainment system is arranged, and then those very horizontal line, matte style, and overall very much refined, and all the buttons and details, just everything is right about this car, kind of. And middle trim level seats, by the way, cloth on the inside, but different color on the outside. It's a very nice combination. I would definitely go for it. And we also have a heated steering wheel, but that is also available with the Talisman, by the way. Inside of the doors, again, you see as least lines as possible. They really try to keep it simple. And if we then directly move on to the Talisman, we see, I told you earlier, the basic build quality has been improved, definitely. And if we then compare the seats, they are definitely softer than in the Passat. So it's a different approach as for the seat. Softer surface, more like a sofa atmosphere. And you see how the instruments are arranged. It is cleaner than before. Yet again, we have, let's say, more different kinds of forms that are used. So it's not as clean as in the Passat, but what is actually very good, you see, we also have kind of a flat surface. If you look at it from the dashboard,
up and then down. Everything is kind of flattened out also together with the screen. So what's your opinion? How do you think you would rate the interiors of the Passat and the Talisman if you see them now directly next to each other? Rear compartment, you see you have way more space here, definitely in Passat. The Passat is a shorter car, but is better using the space it has actually. And if we go inside, we can also take another look at the cockpit from the rear view. And then we have, for example, another look at the map, how everything is arranged there. Again, if you want more detail on the Passat B8, watch our separate Passat videos. But to give you the comparison here, we also have both with digital cockpits. You see it here in the Passat. It's optional. You not always get that one. And well, it is a nice thing because you can have different information on there, but you don't have to have it. Let's take it that way. So that's again the comparison here. Direct visual proof of knee space. I got the seat as I would be driving in the front. And then the difference here, you have really not that much space as in the Passat. You can also get inside here, which is not that easy as in the Passat, and that you have the direct visual proof. You know, that's really a huge difference, although the car is longer. Then the cockpit overview here again, also in comparison to the Passat. As I said, this one here is one of the cleanest Renault interiors so far. So I really like it. It's a big step forward. The screen is a different setup, you see, definitely. Also the analog instruments. And I would say the overall style we see here, you know, for example, how the numbers are arranged, the resolution of the screens, the display, then also in details, the button at the steering wheel. You really, well, you get the impression, the overall of the Passat is really more premium. The Passat is definitely premium. The Talisman is not. It is good in quality, but not premium. The Passat is premium, meanwhile. And why is that? Well, it's really only, first of all, you don't really know why, but then you have to really look at the differences. For example, you know, the seats, they seem worthier with the Passat. Or, as I said, the buttons at the climate control or at the steering wheel or the digital instruments. Those are all just very small details, but they then account for something different. Then the loading compartments, you can flip it up here, and then also the rear view camera is hidden. You have easier access here with the Passat. It's broader. Well, maybe not that long actually, but quite well usable, definitely. And if we then move onto the Talisman, the opening process, by the way, you have to put this small here, and this is the rear view camera, therefore it also gets dirty quite easily. And what we can see here is that the opening here is not that wide as with the Passat. Very long space indeed, but you can again use it better in the Passat. So the Talisman is not, you know, the best car as for using all the space you have, definitely not, but it's a very good price performance deal. So let me conclude about the all-new Renault Talisman as for the exterior, interior and the driving experience, and also our short comparison to the Volkswagen Passat. First of all, they have really done a lot. You see that they have done a lot of investments in their production, manufacturing in the factory in France, and the exterior is really stunning. Most of the most beautiful Renaults ever, I think. At least if you just take the modern cars into account. For example, also just look at the two-color scheme of the alloys. A lot of very, very fine details where you say, okay, there's really a lot of joy in this one. And for example, also the C daytime running lights. And I'll just turn that on again for you. Maybe if you close or open the car, or then if I also activate the lights fully. It looks really nice in the rain now, although it's very unpleasant for us, of course, to film in the rain. As I said, from the exterior, although they're of course using some of the design space they have, you lose that on the inside then, from the space on the inside, but really stunning design, and that could be one of the selling factors here, because this one here is really outstanding, especially from the front. The interior, they have done really a lot there, so the good quality they've reached now. They are now in a very competitive segment again, back again, because with Laguna it has lost track totally. Here now they do have a competitive car again. It's not as refined as the Volkswagen Passat, but therefore it's also cheaper because it comes with a lot of equipment already from the basic versions and is still cheaper then. So, well, sometimes, you know, it doesn't really matter so much between different brands, but here Renault really sets a price where you can think about, okay, maybe I get more equipment for less money. That might be really, especially for private customers who don't get, you know, fleet leasing business offices or something like that. So this one will definitely be a crucial factor. As for driving, it's really more or less at all of the other French cars set on the comfort, more of a soft ride. Here you see often also close it itself, or when you just touch the door handles. Really set on comfort the ride, but at the same time, if you pick either the highest trim level or pick this option with the four-wheel steering, it's a very interesting option because you can make the car very agile, especially at lower speeds, and also reduce the turning circle. So there, they have really a technology that is standing out, and well, Renault didn't have that for years now, that they have like certain one technology where I said we have that and everyone else, especially in the same segment, does not. So this is definitely some astonishing thing. We said that especially in the interior comparison, you don't have so much space on the inside on the Talisman. That is not that good, although they have paid attention, they made the seats slimmer here, especially in the middle trim level. But still, the other cars in this segment offer more space, definitely, and well, that is one crucial thing so far. But the ride, as I said, is very comfort and a very good seating position in the front, no question about that. And as I said, attractive package just for this side. Yeah, and overall conclusion is Renault is back definitely. I think the next year will be very crucial for the brand because with all of those new products, we will see how the sales will evolve and they can catch up to the competitors now, definitely. However, you have seen, especially here with the Passat, one of the leading cars in the segment, they are still, if you look at the very details, they are not quite there yet, but definitely on a very good way. I hope you enjoyed our review with me, with Thomas, and I think I'll see you at the next Autogefühl review, be it a comparison, small comparison, big comparison, 2-3 cars, or the next of our single reviews. Also check out other videos we have linked in the video description or use the YouTube search Autogefühl plus the model name. See you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching.